Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. Loom Apps aligns the modern enterprise workforce through better communication, engagement, organization, and work. The company's leading internet and employee experience platform intelligently connects people, information, and applications to deepen business relationships and grow institutional knowledge and productivity. Available across devices and languages, Loom Apps is an open, multi-talent platform built for enterprise scale and flexibility. Loom App is counted on by over 4 million users spanning the world's top enterprises from Airbus to Zendesk. I would now like to introduce your speaker for today, Rebecca Wetteman, Principal Analyst at Valoir. Rebecca, you have the floor.
Thank you, Catherine, and thanks everybody for joining today. Delighted to be here to speak with you and share some ideas and thoughts on new collaboration strategies for a hybrid world. For those of you that may not be familiar with Valoir, we're an analyst firm advising leaders on the value of technology with a focus on customer and employee experience. With more than 20 years in HR and HCM and enterprise apps experience, yes, I can remember when we were still debating payroll error rate and punch cards. Through the years, I've helped customers build a business case for hundreds of enterprise application deployments and have been recognized as an HR Tech Top 100 influencer. But we're not here to talk about me today. We're here to talk about the future of collaboration and collaboration strategies as we think about the hybrid workplace. So what I'd like to talk about a little bit is the history of intranets, talk about some of the recent data from the Valoir 2022 Employee Experience Survey, where we talked to employees about a number of issues around collaboration, remote and hybrid work, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and other issues, address the hybrid workplace challenge, talk about the checklist for an employee experience-focused collaboration strategy, and finally share some tips and tricks on building the business case for an investment in a new enterprise collaboration strategy. But first, let's talk about the first intranets. For those of you who've been around as long as I have, we remember how exciting it was when we first heard about the internet. And intranets came not far after that. We were just getting used to email and Yahoo when we found the first intranets being made available on the corporate desktop. Whether it was Lotus Notes, OpenText, Interwoven, or some of those old names, we found them as a great opportunity to help share, communicate, and in most cases, broadcast information. But along with those early intranets also came the idea of, remember this one? Knowledge management. I can remember in the mid-90s working with the British Broadcasting Corporation, and they had a brilliant intranet strategy. Give everyone access on their desktop to content updated on a regular basis, where users could connect with each other around the world, rate that content, connect with people they didn't know, collaborate and share ideas. Well, we can imagine sort of how that went. The goals of the early internet versus reality were very, very different. From a technology perspective, what we created was a lot of electronic filing cabinets. Those of you that remember Lotus Notes remember what that looked like. And the reality was a lot of static publishing platform. Really the only voices, the only navigators, the only librarians or curators of that content were those with the tech skills or IT resources to keep them up to date, and they became electronic filing cabinets. Now that's the technology part of it. But culturally, if we think back to the BBC, we just weren't ready. We were just figuring out email etiquette, what made sense to put on the intranet or not on the intranet, what was the best way to use emerging collaborative technologies. And we certainly weren't ready to share, like, update, and connect with colleagues around the world that we might have never met before. But so much has changed since then. We don't talk about intranets now as much as we used to, but in reality, we've seen a lot of modern technology that has changed our employee expectations about what technology should be in the workplace today. We can build our own websites at home without any coding knowledge. We use filters, sophisticated search, and other technologies day by day to sort through the volume and the information and content that come toward us. And employees expect that consumer-grade experience at work. But it's not just about the technology. Yes, they want modern technology that supports the way they want to work. They want collaboration and feedback when and how they want it, but they also want a clearer view of how their work aligns with their company's strategy. And they want to know that their employer aligns with their culture and values. So in fact, when we spoke with employees about these issues in our spring employee experience survey, we found some very interesting results. At a high level, obviously we're talking about a return to work environment. We found that the average employee was still spending more than 3.5 hours a day in online meetings, yet still felt disconnected. 1/3 of remote workers had a fear of missing out, both in terms of the lack of ability to connect with colleagues they needed to speak with and learn from, and the lack of opportunities for face time with the boss. And on-site workers agreed, believing they had a real advantage from having more face time with colleagues and bosses. Beyond the hybrid work from home, return to work situation, we also found some interesting insights about learning. After salary, career advancement opportunity was the top reason employees chose an employer. When we talked to them about learning, we also found that learning from mentors far above classroom-led, manager-led, or online training was the top way employees felt they could advance their career. At the same time, those employees felt that fewer than 50% of the companies they worked for supported those mentor-mentee connections. Obviously, a bigger challenge in a hybrid or remote work world. So a real disconnect in terms of what employees felt they needed to learn and advance in their careers and what technology was enabling in their organization. We also found interesting insights when we looked at diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, as well as wellness. Fewer than 1 in 5 employees gave their employer an A for supporting DEI. I bring in the points about hybrid and remote work with DEI because I think it's important for us to think about diversity and equity and inclusion, particularly when we've created a new separation in our workforce between those who may be in the office full-time, part-time, or completely remote. Only 1 in 5 employees gave their employer an A for communicating clear policies around hybrid and remote work. More than 1 in 5 gave their employer a failing grade for scheduling hybrid and remote work schedules fairly and transparently. And nearly 1/3 gave their employer a failing grade for supporting employee mental health and wellness. What this tells us is that the need for communication, the need for transparency, and the new challenges of a remote or hybrid workforce are very much present in employees' minds today. So let's talk about that hybrid workplace challenge. Employees want connection, not more screen time. One of the things that we heard a lot from employees in the survey was, if I'm going into the office to sit on Zoom calls, I might as well be at home. They want ability to connect in different ways, whether it's broadcast communication, one-on-one collaboration, synchronous and asynchronous communication. Without a level playing field, those same kind of tools for all, those who are working from home miss opportunities, and HR faces new DEI risks. Without visibility, in-office employees commute to Zoom. And without visibility of who is in the office, employees may not be able to find their work time in the office as productive as they had hoped. And finally, technology has to both replace and complement the in-office experience. We all know over the past couple of years, we've spun up a lot of new technologies and a lot of new areas to tactically address the challenges of quickly moving to remote or hybrid work. What were tactical strategies and put in place now have to become long-term strategies that replace and complement the in-office experience while supporting culture, collaboration, diversity, and inclusion. It's not just about the technology, but it's about the culture. And increasingly, that technology reflects our culture. Employees want collaboration choices. They want to see how their work aligns with the company. And as we see a blurred line between work and home, they want to see how their personal lives, their personal culture and beliefs are reflected in the workplace. So what does that mean as we think about a collaboration strategy moving forward? One that is inclusive, one that is enabling, one that helps us to think about driving broad adoption of a new collaboration strategy. So here's the quick checklist, the collaboration for a hybrid workforce. First, personalized, intelligent, dynamic, and modern. Let's dig into each of those. What does personalized mean? Role-tailored are the table stakes. It really needs to be about enabling the employee to tailor that view of information in the way that makes most sense for them. To be able to choose the collaboration and delivery methods, filters, and support tools that help them be more productive in their job. And it's not about job title. It's about how I work. It's about how I like to collaborate. It's about how I like to interact with my team. It's about how I like to be managed. It also needs to be channel agnostic. I was speaking with a chief HR officer at a large pharmaceutical firm earlier this week about the challenges that she's facing providing a broad communication and collaboration platform for employees that are on their manufacturing floor. For obvious reasons, they can't have access to their mobile phones except during breaks, and kiosk access may be the only way they get corporate information. So how do I think about delivering information to them in both a format and a channel that makes sense and is equal for all? And finally, it has to be about the person, not just the employee. It has to be about enabling them. It has to be about providing the kind of feedback, collaboration, channels, and wellness checks that they need and make sense for them. A personalized modern collaboration environment should feel like a personal digital assistant for every employee. Second, it needs to be intelligent. Now, folks, this doesn't mean it has to be AI. I know we talk a lot about AI these days. There's lots of great rules-based stuff out there in addition to AI. But it needs to be context-aware. It needs to present learning opportunities, connections, resources that are available to me in the context of my job and what I'm working on. It needs to be location-aware, whether I'm in the office or away from the office. It needs to be calendar-aware. Calendar-aware and peer-aware are super important right now. I'm working with an organization right now that just deployed a new technology that enables peers to see when their colleagues have scheduled time in the office so that they can be there at the same time, making the most of their commuting hours. If they're going to be in the office, they can be alerted when other folks are going to be there that it's important for them to collaborate with. It's linking this location, calendar, and peer-aware capabilities that helps employees to not just be more productive as teams, but be more engaged, feel more of a sense of community, and feel more of a sense of cultural alignment with their organization. An intelligent collaboration approach is also aligned with learning and professional development objectives. It's time to put the LMS away and think about how we integrate learning into the overall work experience, whether it's micro-learning, connecting with mentors or coaches, identifying opportunities for learning in the moment that can provide individual employees with that individual coaching that they need. An intelligent collaboration infrastructure feels like a digital coach. Next, it should be dynamic. It should be integrated or better than other collaboration channels. If we look, for example, at the broad viral adoption that we've seen of Slack and other collaboration tools over the past couple of years, it's because they enabled employees to collaborate and communicate dynamically, whether it was synchronously or asynchronously, in the way that made the most sense for them. Dynamic is also about enabling ERGs, a key point as we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion. A dynamic collaboration infrastructure that enables ERG leaders to share up-to-date information about opportunities to create community for like-minded employees to collaborate and support causes, for example, be very, very important. And finally, it needs to encourage that ongoing feedback and recognition. These three areas, integrated, enabling ERGs and the whole employee, and encouraging feedback and recognition, are all ways that can inspire viral adoption of new collaboration technology. And finally, and perhaps obviously, it should be modern. We've seen rapid adoption of low-code and no-code technologies over the past few years because they enable employees to get things done. The same approach should be true as we think about modern collaboration strategies. It should be flexible, training-free, provide nearly effortless integration, but at the same time be governable and auditable. One of the challenges that we saw with early intranets was those who had the ability to build, develop, and deliver content did so without necessarily a lot of visibility into what else was out there and who else was publishing, meaning people spent more time verifying the information they found on the internet was actually correct and timely than actually using and benefiting from the information itself. We've seen the same challenge with the growth of low-code and no-code tools. Without a framework in place to manage governance, searching, and tracking of that content and information, we risk going back to the same old electronic filing cabinet that is only good as the person doing the filing. So as we think about a modern collaborative infrastructure, flexibility, enabling non-technical users to publish, share, collaborate, and contribute, having a highly usable interface that's training-free, yet enables us to integrate it with other data sources and information, and finally, making it governable and auditable, are all key factors in a successful enterprise collaboration strategy. In short, it should be enabled and managed by IT, powered by HR, but driven by employees. So all of that sounds great. And some of the top benefits we've seen from organizations adopting new collaboration strategies today include reduced and avoided costs. First, from rationalizing system maintenance, being able to eliminate the multiple sites, efforts, communication tools that may already be out there, but also in terms of avoiding additional staff. We've seen this particularly in the area of HR, where HR has been tasked with so many responsibilities over the past 36 months, whether it's gathering new data, keeping new reporting requirements, managing different reporting to the board, all the different things that are on HR's plate. What we found was that a modern strategy that, again, was supported by IT, enabled by HR, but really driven by employees, enabled them to avoid additional staff while providing greater benefit, particularly around areas like ERGs. Another benefit, increased productivity, whether it was for HR, for the general employee population, or for ERG leaders. Another key area of benefit that everybody's thinking about today, increased employee retention. Now, we don't necessarily think of that as a big cost savings, but as you start to think about reducing the cost of training and onboarding, accelerating the time to productivity for employees, a modern collaboration infrastructure that increases employee retention and reduces the cost and time to onboard and train employees can have a significant benefit. Reduced risk is another area that we've seen, particularly as organizations look to make sure that every employee has equal access to not just information, but opportunity, visibility, and collaboration. And finally, improved brand reputation. It's less about the technology than it is about the culture today. It is the technology that enables our culture. And employees are increasingly looking to organizations that employ modern technologies that support their brand and support their culture. The other important thing I wanted to bring up as we think about the top benefits that often gets overlooked when we think about an HR-led collaboration or employee experience strategy is that the benefits span beyond HR. Any business case that we think about is not just about saving HR staff time or increasing HR staff productivity, but enabling broader productivity across the organization, providing greater visibility to the board, improving operational efficiency, providing ERG leaders with a greater platform and greater enablement, and enabling DEI initiatives and efforts that are employee-led, employee-driven, that drive cultural awareness and drive greater community. One of the organizations, for example, that we worked with in enabling ERG leaders found that the benefits were not just for HR productivity, the ability to share broadly information about DEI initiatives and other areas with the general staff, but also in being able to communicate to the board and being able to reduce their overall spend on publicity and branding because those ERG leaders were unable to promote, share, and collaborate more broadly with their community about the efforts their company was making to improve the environment. Now that all sounds good, but the reality is we all have a lot of collaboration tools today. They've been out there for a long time, right? Most companies already have some tools, whether they're officially sanctioned or not. We all have email. We've also seen a lot of failed intranet initiatives over the year, making us all a little wary of looking at a new communication or collaboration strategy. And finally, we've often focused on the business case as a way to get budget, not necessarily as a roadmap for how we can be most successful with a technology project. So how do we think about the three-step business case in a way that is not just about, as I said, getting budget, but about really driving success of any collaboration initiative? Remember, the top potential benefits are not about a new collaboration tool. I'll say that again. The top potential benefits are not about a new collaboration tool. They're about enabling areas, often beyond HR, that aren't necessarily well supported today. That could be, for example, ERGs, we've talked about those. It could be enabling more mentor-mentee connections, peer-to-peer learning, peer-to-peer collaboration, as well as the traditional benefits of being able to communicate in a timely and consistent manner to all employees. When you identify those top potential benefits, don't forget about cost avoidance. In a lot of cases, we see organizations deploying new collaboration strategies, finding that what they're able to do is a lot more with the same number of employees. Avoiding additional hires is a real benefit in many cases for the business case for a collaboration infrastructure strategy. As you think about those top potential benefits, remember that broader benefits equal bigger benefits. Saving every employee a small amount of time can be significantly more than just saving if I'm thinking about just HR or just the marketing or communications department. You want to look at quantifying the potential benefit and cost per employee. Why? Two reasons. First, most of these platforms are based on a per employee pricing today. And second, if you're looking at the potential benefit per employee, you can understand what the break-even point is based on the cost of an individual employee to the organization. So how do you quantify those potential benefits? Well, first, you want to look to case studies and other examples, pure examples, real data and real information that show how other organizations have achieved benefits. Second, ask, but don't survey employees. Asking employees about what the greatest challenges are that they face today, not in terms of collaboration, but in terms of those key career advancement objectives, will help you understand where you're likely to get the greatest benefit and where those benefits may lie, whether it's in mentor-mentee relationships, in supporting ERGs, in supporting DEI initiatives, or other areas. And remember, as you're thinking about quantifying those potential benefits and costs per employee, a reasonable range is better than a perfect number. Thinking about it in terms of a range of productivity, in terms of what you expect, gives you a roadmap for success as you build the business case, and gives you an opportunity to think about what employees might fit at the top of the range or at the bottom of the range, and how you want to enable them all to take advantage of the new collaborative technology. And the third and most important step to building any business case is your plan to market, deploy, promote, and evolve any new technology strategy. The main reason new technologies fail is because folks fail to plan. Now, as I think about a broad collaboration strategy, again, it is not about rolling out a new collaboration platform. It's about thinking about those user champions and little victories that can make collaboration go viral. Little victories that help employees understand there's a new platform enabling them that is effective for them. Enabling user champions like those ERG leaders who may have not had a platform before. Finding those little examples along the way that you can promote to show the success and value of a broader collaboration platform. Those little stories that drive viral adoption. You'll also want to think about plans to measure the success or address hurdles. Setting goals to understand, if I've set a range of a benefit for employees, what will I do to make sure that they're on track? What will I do to make sure that challenges that exist can be addressed? What will I do to promote the value of what's in it for that individual end user of the collaborative technology, the collaborative platform? And then what will I do as hurdles or challenges arise? We've covered a lot of ground really quickly today, and I appreciate your attention. There's a lot more available on the Valoir website as we think about the new hybrid workplace and hybrid technologies. So a couple more things to think about as we look ahead. Let's not call it the hybrid workplace anymore. It is the workplace. It requires not just new technologies, but new strategies. The honeymoon period that we experienced when everybody pitched in to get things done, folks, it's over. However, the window for experimentation is not. That means that now is the time to look at what are those key areas, not for a collaboration platform, but for enabling employees across the entire employee life cycle to make them more engaged, productive, and advancing in their careers. The traditional challenges that HR faced before the pandemic are still there. and they will only be amplified by inequities in any sort of hybrid work environment. So we need to think about a common collaboration platform that enables equal, transparent access to information, collaboration, and sharing for all. The new employee experience is all about collaboration. Remember, it needs to be personalized, not about my job or my role, but about the way I work. It needs to be intelligent, becoming that personal digital coach to help me not just get my work done and understand my alignment with the company, but understand how I can advance my career. It needs to be dynamic, supporting both broadcast communication, asynchronous and synchronous communication, and ongoing sharing of information in a rapid and easy to use way. It needs to be modern. It needs to be as easy to use as any tool and enable every user to quickly come up to speed and see it as their own digital assistant. And finally, it needs to be evolutionary. As we continue to evolve in this modern workplace environment, the tools need to be flexible enough and easy enough for non-technical users to be able to grow, expand, change, and adapt as we find new uses and solutions for those tools. And finally, remember, the best business case for any new technology begins with some estimates and evolves with reality. Targeting peer champions and little victories rather than a broad business case for a broad collaboration platform is likely to help you to identify those key areas where you'll want to focus your deployment, marketing, and promotion efforts to ensure that you get some big victories up front and drive viral adoption of any collaboration infrastructure you choose. I really appreciate everyone taking the time and listening to my thoughts today. Happy to share more data. If anyone's interested, you can reach me at rebecca@valoir.com or follow us on Valoir View. And at this point, we'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. As a reminder, to ask a question, please use the Q&A panel located at the bottom right side of your screen. Please type your questions into the text field and hit send. Please use the dropdown and it's all panelists.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. One question coming in here is, I know you've talked about how we really have to transition from the honeymoon period of hybrid work into really the implementation of hybrid work. Mm-hmm. What would you say, maybe one or two pieces of advice for HR leaders or companies that are still stuck in that honeymoon period?
Sure. I would say first, this is not a story about HR. This is a story about the entire organization. So it's time to look beyond the walls of HR, looking at what employees have done, particularly around ERGs, that may be flying under the radar of the official technology portfolio today is an important thing to look at, as well as looking at those that have really driven the adoption and use of technology in areas like low code. You can find proponents and champions outside of HR who have recognized real business needs that the company has and taken initiative to impact them. The other key area that I would think about, and we talked about this a little bit, is being calendar aware. And by calendar aware, it's not just about delivering information in context of the day-to-day. It's about understanding peer calendars, encouraging the sharing of scheduling information, being more transparent about scheduling, enabling employees to see and share information easily about when they and their peers will be in the office. That's how we can really enable those connections, support greater mentoring opportunities, but also ensure that if employees are coming into the office, it's the most productive environment it can be.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I do think, getting the employees, if you're doing hybrid work, when they are there, making sure it is the most productive time. We have one question coming in saying they're having trouble, really honing in on the modern aspect of the new employee engagement, trying to get that IT department working with HR leaders. Is there a best practice or an approach that you've seen works best in trying to get everyone on the same page in a collaborative way?
You know, it's interesting because we've often seen the separation, right, between HRIS folks and the IT folks. And we're always careful about wanting to implement any new technology in the HR space because it impacts everyone, particularly as we're thinking about something like payroll or benefits. But this is a real opportunity to talk with IT about their expertise in putting governance and management in place and enabling employees on the low-code front. The modern piece, the low-code piece, is a really, really important part of this, and helping IT understand how they can be the enablers and the managers of this is very important. Also important to recognize as well that there's a lot of things going on out there viral that may be under the radar of IT that creates potential risks for them. So collaborating with IT to say, let's identify those areas that our employees have identified, or we need those collaborative technologies, or we need a new strategy, and work together to make sure that what we do to deliver to them is well managed, secure, and governed. It's very important.
Absolutely. My last question here is surrounding mental health and employee wellness at work. And a question came in, if they are, going to support this hybrid work, how to recognize and keep tabs on employees and their mental health journey. A lot of, people are just saying opening lines of communication. So is there anything else that they can do with this hybrid work?
Surveys stink. We talk about employee feedback and employee surveys, but in a lot of cases we're asking for either data looking backwards so we can congratulate ourselves, or data looking backwards so that we can identify a problem that has already bit us. As we think about a modern collaboration strategy, it is about, yes, those employee pulse feedback questions, the how are you doing today and that sort of thing. But it's also really about enabling collaboration and understanding that the style of collaboration, the way individuals want to communicate and collaborate, can be very, very different. Even folks in the same job role, the same job history, introverts, extroverts, may have very different ways of checking in. And that's why having those different channels of communication, enabling employees to choose which channel makes the most sense for them, but also enabling that ongoing collaboration and communication with intelligence around it is really important. The other important piece of this really is, as we think about collaboration, is not an enterprise-wide strategy, but a personal digital assistant. The intelligent piece, the personal piece, helps that employee to feel more engaged and connected, even if they're not in the office and working with other folks every day. So it's really about thinking about what is the best style of communication, because frankly, folks, 3.5 hours on Zoom every day is not it. How do we think about what are those different channels of communication, and how do we think about those different kinds of ways we can interact with employees on an ongoing basis, rather than the pulse survey? As pulse surveys have their place, but in addition to pulse surveys, how do we have those other channels of communication going where we can identify and understand employee issues before they become bigger issues? I think the other thing that a lot of companies are struggling with that we've seen is, how do I think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, not as a separate office or a separate HR piece, but as part of my overall culture? And that's an area where bringing collaboration into the mix, using a collaboration strategy to enable ERGs, to enable employees to connect and collaborate, to feel connected with other employees that are concerned about other issues, other causes, can be a great way to build culture and community, even if we're not all in the office together.
Yeah, that is so true. Even just exploring those different channels, maybe you don't feel comfortable in email or a Zoom call, but maybe you want to have a private conversation on their cell phones. I think that is a great reminder that we have so many channels that we can use for these great communication and collaboration. So that is our last question for today. I just wanted to thank you again so much, Rebecca. Your research and your time has been really great.
Thank you all for joining. And again, happy to share any details. Follow us on Valoir View if you choose to follow Twitter channels. And if anyone's interested in more details or more on the research or the presentation, please let me know.